Hey guys, I am here today on my second interview for the Success After Graduation series, and I'm going to be talking to Ryan Cass today. And I met him through the Charleston Young Professionals group here in Charleston, which is a part of the Charleston Chamber. And it's basically just people, mostly millennials, people between about 18 and 40 that get together and meet. And I just kind of put a post out there. I'm trying to learn as much about life after graduation as possible from people just like you. So Ryan went through the Citadel and he is now working at Boeing, which you'll hear a lot more of his story as we get into it. But if you guys are out there and you guys have a story, whether you're in high school getting ready for college, or you are in college getting ready to graduate, or you just recently graduated, I want to know everything about what you've learned, everything you're experiencing, the good and the bad. But as we continue this, listen to some of the awesome stories of Ryan and how he talks about how goal setting and focusing on his future have been the keys to his success. Take a listen in. Hey guys, I am here today with Ryan Cass. This is another episode in our interview series. I am happy to have you here, Ryan. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me on Memorial Day.
Yeah, thank you, John. Happy to be here, and I've been looking forward to this since we signed up about a week ago.
About a week ago, yeah, and I appreciate that.
This is awesome.
Yeah, we're both a part of Charleston Young Professionals, which I think is a great group here in Charleston, and it's a great way to meet other people doing similar things to what we're doing, either making it through high-end corporate, they have their own businesses, which is great. And I guess I kind of just want to open up and understand exactly, what your past has been like. I know you graduated a few years ago, but kind of just walk us through the journey from high school, college, where you're at today, and where you're looking on going in the future.
Yeah, thanks again. So a little bit about me. Yeah, I'm from Fort Mill, South Carolina, small town, right on the border of North and South Carolina, close to Charlotte. Went to Fort Mill High School, and then while I was in high school, I realized that sports wasn't going to be my future. I was definitely much more focused on sports than I was academics at the time. So that led me to go to the Citadel, to really tap into that potential that I thought I had, and it definitely was one of my better life decisions so far. Rough start, never been exposed to ROTC or really much anything military related, but it's definitely helped shape me into who I am today. And after graduating from the Citadel in 2015, started working for the Boeing company in St. Louis. I started off in a 2-year rotation program called the Business Career Foundation Program. Did 6 4-month-long rotations spanning all different functions. So operations, supplier management, finance. Really found that I was more of a operations kind of guy. Really enjoy being on the factory with people, with the product. And so now I currently lead a process improvement team, working to go into operations management. That's my next step. And then ultimately run a factory here pretty soon. So it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah, and that's within 4 years. I mean, you literally graduated 4 years ago, pretty much like this weekend. I think Citadel probably just graduated this weekend or the weekend before. So that's quite a lot in the last 4 years. Now, what degree did you go to Citadel for?
Yeah, I got my Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration.
Business Administration. Okay. So, I mean, do you think that applied directly to your role at Boeing?
I think so. But I think the main benefit, John, coming out of the Citadel, I mean, granted, the education was great, and was able to apply a lot of the classroom knowledge into my current role. And still, there are times where different situations come up where I'm comfortable because it's something that I learned in school. But it was more the leadership aspect that I really benefited from while at the Citadel. I had opportunities to lead different groups all the way up from 10 cadets to my senior year. I was in charge of roughly 450 cadets, so about 20% of the student population. And through a lot of leadership tests and really just getting to know how to work with people, all different types of people, that's what's definitely benefited me the most in my career thus far.
That's great, because I mean, not every school obviously offers that. Citadel being a military college like that, opened up that opportunity for you. Now, is that something you got put into, or you realized that you would have done well in the leadership position, so you asked to be put in that position? How do you get a leadership position? Because obviously in charge of 450 cadets, not every single one of them gets a leadership position. So how do you get into that position?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. You definitely have to have the desire for it. You're absolutely right. They're not just going to say, "Oh, okay, here you go, John. You're in charge of all these cadets now." So it's part of having the want. If that's one of your goals, for me, that was a big goal of mine. I knew that, hey, I wanted to be in command. So I was battalion commander in that role. But that, and then you go through an interview process just like you would a normal job, and they look at how do you perform academically, how's your physical fitness. So we have 4 pillars at the Citadel. It's academic, physical, military, and I'm blanking on the 4th one, but either way, they rank you on those 3 pillars, and then you go through the interview process, and they determine who fits best in each role. So fortunately, got the big one my senior year, and it was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Learned a lot.
So this is always my favorite, when people reach out for something and they achieve that goal, right? That is my favorite thing to do when I work with students, anybody. So about how long of a journey was that? I mean, did you say, okay, I want this position, you kind of reached out and you just had to prove yourself? You kind of said how you get through there, but like, how long of a period was that? Were there nights you were sitting there thinking, I don't know if I have this? Or did you just march full head all the way into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as a freshman, every freshman has a assigned senior mentor. So I was very fortunate with, my senior mentor really took great care of us and pushed us to, have big ambitions. And then you see a lot of the senior cadets going through the ranks, and you're like, hey, you kind of find a few people just like you do in the real world where, hey, I kind of want to be like that person or that man or woman. And then you stay close to them. And so it was definitely, every position that I had with increasing responsibility was one that I identified as a freshman. And then, yeah, as the years went by, it's like, wow, this is actually, becoming a reality. But it wasn't by luck. It was just having a goal and going for it and making it no secret that, hey, this is what I want. And I'm coming for it. And there you go. And that still same thought process goes with anything today.
Yeah, I love that. And I've seen times where they see the beginning, they see you as a freshman, then they see you in the leadership position, and they sometimes think, oh, he's lucky. They do not see the grinding hours, behind the scenes, and the relationships you have to build, and just the late nights and all that you have to build. So I'm glad you kind of talked through that. And it sounds like having that role model and a mentor obviously were a key part in doing that.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm proponent of mentors. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now without the mentors that I had and have and will continue to have. And I mean, heck, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation because I wouldn't be in this position to, I probably wouldn't even have had the opportunity to meet someone like you if it wasn't for having mentors. So I can't speak enough about the importance of just even having just one mentor, and eventually you can work into having multiple, but have at least one person that's looking out for you in life, and it'll make a huge, huge, huge difference.
Yeah, and I talk about this a lot too, because they've made mistakes, right? So they'll tell you all the things not to do.
Exactly.
But they stumbled through it themselves, or hopefully they had a mentor and they kind of just keep passing down the knowledge. But at some point in time, there was one guy up there that like completely just trashed and, was dragged through the mud and everything, but they learned from it. And so you kind of just get it from word of mouth. Now, do you have any mentors that you do not know personally, but you look up to and you kind of just follow information that they put out there? For me, it's like Tony Robbins. Obviously I don't know him personally, but I absorb a lot of his content. Do you have anybody like that you kind of count as a mentor?
Yeah. Tony Robbins, great one. I've got his book, Unshakable, in my room. Read that last year. But yeah, folks like Tony Robbins, Dave Ramsey, who I'm sure we'll bring that up here in a minute. I'm sure you're very familiar with him. I like a lot of the, especially coming from the Citadel, old military leaders. So people like David Goggins, Jocko Willink.
Jocko, I'm listening to his book now. It's an amazing book. I
Yeah,
didn't quite know what it was going to be like, but it's amazing to hear the war stories and just the takeaways from everything he learned.
yeah, and like, you can learn so much from there. It's just the mindset, you know.
Mhm.
And going back to what you mentioned earlier, and the grind, and those guys, I mean, they're they preach it, they exemplify it, and so yeah, I love listening to their content, and it definitely inspires me. Um, Trying to think, there's a few other big business names. I mean, even our CEO at Boeing, Dennis Muhlenberg. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the news right now. He's getting he's having a tough time, but it's people like him that I really look up to, and then the military leaders. So yeah,
I
absolutely.
like that. And one reason to bring that up is there's sometimes people out there that hear the word mentor and they think like, I have to know a superstar personally, and I have to go out and ask them, can you please mentor me? And that's not always an option. But there
Mhm.
are so many people out there that are just giving so much of their learnings free, or like for a
Yeah.
$10 book or audiobook, whatever, and you can listen to all of it. And we were talking about Jocko, for those of you listening, a book that I am almost done with now, and it's called Extreme Ownership. And the audiobook's really good because it's him directly narrating it along with his buddy. I think it's Lath is his name.
Mhm.
And they talk about war stories, and like there's times that they get stuck in some really crazy situations, but because that they take extreme ownership and they know how to lay things out, it applies a lot to the leadership in business. And it's just amazing how you hear this through it. It makes perfect sense when you hear it, but you don't always think about it right off the bat. So it's great how they can kind of convert it from something that our military uses in everyday combat and how we can apply it to ourselves today. So that's one book I highly recommend to people. So we talked about your college life a little bit. This is one question I kind of like. What type of student were you in high school? Did high school kind of translate into? I see a smile coming here. I feel like there might be a difference between high school and college.
Yeah, that's a big reason why I went to the Citadel. Going back, again, if there was a GPA for sports, 4.0, but definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my high school just as a high school student, not very focused. I cared about my business classes because I knew that's what I wanted to get into. But other than that, I was not very studious. Kind of just slid by. Knew that I was capable of much more, but really did not put in tons of effort. And then in college, total 180. Made dean's list every semester and did very, very well academically. Again, being in that environment at Citadel, it kind of forces you to focus. I remember calling my parents right before first semester ended and telling them, hey, I'm going to be on dean's list. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? And didn't stop. Just kept trucking along. So
That's
again,
awesome.
very glad that I went to the Citadel.
Yeah, and I think part of the obviously the mentorship, the leadership opportunities, and then the competition too. And
Mhm.
I think a key part there too that you said is like you knew you had more potential. And I do believe, not everybody is built for the exact system of like high school, right?
Mhm.
Just the way that they do it, they teach you through tests, and there's all these different ways, but it's kind of it's very specific, and there's not a whole lot of freedom there. But once you went to college, you kind of had your own freedom. You figured out who you were, and you were able to lean into everything that you were passionate about, not just
Mhm.
everything that people made you do. So
Right.
just because you're not the most studious student in high school does not mean that you're not going to be able to make it in college. And that's one point that I love hearing, because
100%.
plenty of students that make a 180, especially going through a military school like the Citadel. So that's awesome.
Yep. Absolutely.
So you're out of college and in the last 4 years. So what are some big things that you've learned over the last 4 years getting out of college? And I guess how big of a difference was it from what you learned in college to what you're using every day at Boeing?
Oh man, biggest things I've learned coming out of college. I think for one, it's just now being at a big company, and I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of folks that are very high up in the chain at Boeing, and even in the Charleston community. And I think before you get out into the workforce, a lot of people think, okay, to get into these high positions, you need to be the smartest person in the world. You need to have the 4.0 GPA, have gone to a top tier school. And then being in the workforce and actually meeting these people, don't get me wrong, a lot of them are very intelligent, but a lot of them got there because of the grind and having that support system, having the mentors, and having the goals. So it's been refreshing to see that now that we're out, it's not just about what's up here, but everything else. And really, I've learned how important it is to be a servant leader. Again, you study those people like Robbins, and then the people at the top. They don't just work for themselves; they work for others. They're giving back to develop the next Tony Robbins, the next Jockos, the next Gary Vaynerchuks. Those are probably the two biggest things that I've learned, and it's been, again, I'd say refreshing is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, is everybody kind of looks out for what's in it for me, but the more value you provide others, they're on the receiving end of it. It's like, this guy is just doing amazing value. What can I do to add value back to them? And I think, especially when you start getting into the corporate world and the higher you go up, not everybody's in it for how much value can I take. Like, you start feeling guilty after a while. It's like, here's Ryan, he has done so much for me. You can't just sit there like, I'm going to see how much more I can get out of Ryan. Like, no, you flip it around. It's like, what can I do? What is one small piece that I can do to add value to Ryan? And it sounds like you've moved through different positions. You kind of have a track ahead of you, which it sounds like Boeing's a great company for that, because there are some companies out there that you could come in, work super hard, but unfortunately they don't quite have those paths like kind of drawn out. So you're kind of just sitting there like, I'm showing up before everybody, leaving after everybody, and I don't know where I'm going. So that is one piece too. It sounds like you found a great company. You said you've moved back and forth a couple of times. You're doing what they're asking of you, and they're rewarding you for it. And you're showing up every day, giving it your all, which I think is a big deal. And it's great that you found that right out of college too, because some people jump into the first thing that they shows up, right? The first person that answers or that calls them first after applying to 20, 30 different places, they just jump on it. And I guess kind of talking about the application process. So through college as you're graduating, I'm assuming you graduated in May. Like, when did you apply to Boeing? What was that process like?
Yeah. I found the rotation program that I got into at Boeing when I was, going into senior year. So I interned for 2 summers at Otis Elevator Company. They're a subsidiary of United Technologies. And UTC had a financial leadership program, the FLP. And I knew that, hey, I love airplanes. I love aerospace. I've got to work for a company that has a tangible product, at least to start. And so I was like, Boeing's here in Charleston. Again, love the industry. Let's see what they have. So I found the BCFP in July, going into senior year. And then the application process started in October. I didn't know anyone at Boeing, nor did I know anyone in this program. So I went to LinkedIn and just found everyone that I could that was in the program and messaged all of them. Yeah. And I heard back from one person, Art Guerrero, who I have not met in person yet.
No.
Going back, so you asked, mentors you haven't met, and reached out to Art and just said, hey, I'm interested in this program. I see you're in it. Would love to talk to you and see if you can mentor me through the application process. That'd be great. So Art and I talk. He talks to his manager, Mike Lawson. I get selected for an interview October of senior year, fly out to Seattle for 24 hours in November, and then got the offer right before Thanksgiving break of November senior year. But it was pretty awesome that, I actually messaged Art a couple days ago just to check in on LinkedIn, and he's at Disney now, but had it not been for Art, who knows where I would have been. I was pretty far along with United Technologies and Boeing and GE. Those were my top 3, but that was my employment process.
I love that. Yeah. And like, I mean, talk about like doing whatever it takes. Right. And it's
Yeah.
funny that I did the same thing because I think I was already in the interview process at my current place, Verge, but I wanted to reach out because actually I was going back and forth between Verge and Blackbaud. And so I kind of wanted to reach out because Verge was kind of a lot smaller company. And I saw a couple people came over from Blackbaud. So that was kind of starting to point me to the way that like, well, all these other software engineers came over from Blackbaud. There's probably something there. But I reached out to a couple people like, what's it like working there? And I wanted to get a feel for it. And one guy was actually suspicious. He thought I was like working for HR, thinking that I was trying to like sneak in and see like what the employees were thinking about the place. But yeah, it's fun. Like you said, there was an open opportunity there to the fact that like LinkedIn, everybody has a LinkedIn. I can find somebody that's in that program, and you reached out and he walks you through it, and you found a way because you did not know anybody in the program. So you were basically, I mean, you're going in blind if it weren't for art, and it's, you know, it's not. There is what you know, and there's also who you know. And yes, you didn't know art, but you at least got that connection to at least help a little bit along the way when it came to that application process. And yeah, it is interesting. I always love to play the butterfly effect game, to the fact that like if you didn't meet art, you know, what position would you be in now? Would you be more happy as you are right now? So that's awesome. And so you when did you actually start at Boeing then? Did the program happen during your college career, or they just start you right after you graduate?
Right after graduation. So yeah, I took a few weeks off, and then I started in St. Louis and was there for the first year and a half of the program. So it's a 2-year program. And then got sent back to Charleston to finish my last 2 rotations. And now Charleston's a hosting site for the program. So they picked 2 of us, one from Seattle, and then fortunately I got selected, and we got sent to Charleston really just to be the guinea pigs and build a base for the program here. And now it's up and running. So it's pretty cool.
And so graduating then, how did that feel? So graduation, knowing you have a job as you walk across that stage, how did that feel?
Super comforting. And then especially, you know, no more putting on the uniform every day. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
I guess for us, it was, it's a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. Graduation anywhere is a huge accomplishment, and it's very special. Not discrediting anyone or any other schools, but I think there's a lot to say for the folks that graduate from, you know, places like the Citadel and the academies, just because you can kind of live a little bit more of a normal lifestyle. So
yeah. Couple more changes. Yeah. Graduating college, you know, in most parts, it's like, okay, now I don't got to wake up as early. I don't have as crazy of schedules. I don't have homework at night, but you do move quickly into a work schedule that, you know, is very consistent, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, or whatever it is. But you didn't have that pressure anymore. And now, did you have a lot of friends that were like kind of nervous as you graduated and trying to find those jobs?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say the majority of the folks that I hung out with, John, were, I mean, a lot of them went straight into the military. A good bit of us already had our jobs lined up. But yeah, there were a few that, you know, it's like, okay, what's next? Fortunately, since then they've done well, but I can't imagine what it would be like to walk across the stage and still not know what's next. And, but again, the beauty of it is that we're all young, and, you know, going back to keeping in touch with people, having the goals, and things come into play. Having that solid foundation built.
Yeah. And I kind of go over both sides, right? There's extreme comfort in having that, right? Like you feel so much better when I walk across that stage. But if you don't get super crazy nervous, because there's plenty of time to figure that out. People take gap years, people travel the world, do whatever you want, but just know that, I mean, you just worked your butt off for 4 years, if not more. Most bachelors now take 5 years, you know, to get completed. If you don't take a full workload, then or full class load, then it could become a lot longer. So, so 4 years in school, you graduated for 4 years, kind of like going over the financials of things too. So you had to take out student loans and are able to go through the 4 years. What did those add up to as you're walking across the stage?
Let's see, like 62.
62. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was after getting like a lot of scholarships. Came in with no scholarship money, really. I mean, again, didn't have the high school grades to earn the good scholarships.
Yeah.
And so that really was another incentive to perform well. While at the Citadel, ended up getting about 50% scholarship by junior year. So that 62 would have been into the hundreds.
Yeah.
So no problem. Yeah.
So talk about, so you got scholarships while in college then, right? Because that's one thing I think a lot of people, they think I can only do scholarships like my junior and senior year of high school. So did you get most of those through Citadel, or are you just applying any time in your free time? How did that go?
Yeah, actually all of them were through the Citadel. And then just I would walk into the financial aid office and say, hey, what scholarships are available? And I would do it quite regularly. And then, found out which ones I could apply for. Some were based off certain GPA requirements. And then, it turned out actually one of them my senior year just got a phone call like, hey, we found this grant here that this alumni wants to give out, and you're selected because of your credentials. That's great.
Yeah.
But that would have not come about had it not been going to the financial aid office and actually, making your name known, or else you never want to just be another paper in the stack, right?
Yeah.
You want people to know, like, okay, hey, this is John. Wow, he's actually come in a few times, talked to us, built a relationship. Let's help him out. Versus, let's say the next name. Okay, we don't know who this person is. Not to say they don't look good, but
right.
Doing the little tiny things sometimes will give the best results. Yeah, absolutely.
And my suggestion basically is, if that financial aid office, either in college or high school, doesn't know you by your first name, you're not going often. And I got a scholarship similar to kind of what you did, where I'm down there once a week, once every 2 weeks. And, I'm making great rapport. They're showing that, I'm coming in, applying to anything that I can get my hands on. And one time my guidance counselor was like, hey, John, can you put your name on this? He goes, congratulations, here's a $500 scholarship. Because it was somebody that gave the school money, and they said the guidance counselors got to pick who they wanted to go to. And she saw there was a handful of scholarships that I missed out on by like one person because they had slightly more credentials, or they knew somebody a little bit more, and she felt for me. And she knew, it's like, this kid, I'm working almost full time outside of high school, I'm balancing all these things, is like he's showing up every day. So doing that is even worth a lot, and it doesn't take that much time. And thinking about, how much in scholarships, you're thinking 30 or 40 grand over those 3 years, right? Yeah. And think about how much time you put into that. 40 grand over, I don't know, maybe 100 hours, if that. And that's some good money.
Yeah.
Right. Especially at a college level. Like, you don't get it paid directly in your pocket, but it's not a future problem where now you have to take an extra however many years to pay that off.
Right.
And you were talking earlier about Dave Ramsey, and I'm a big follower of him, and I suggest him to anybody. And me and my wife, we've got both of our cars paid off now because of it. And the only thing we have left are her student loans, which is great because we can kind of just keep marching down, and it's easy. But it's crazy because in the beginning they said, okay, you only owe us $100 a month. But then you do the math, like that's not even covering the interest. So you're just going to be paying this off for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's just something everybody has, so people don't look too deep into it. But unfortunately, it can really get in the way of you wanting to build wealth down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I love about Ramsey the most, that was, going back to mentors again. One of my mentors, Bill Stevens, for graduation, he gave me Total Money Takeover by Dave Ramsey. And so he said, make sure this is like the first thing you read after graduation. So I started reading it and got to the part where, Ramsey's talking about the debt snowball and how you go for the smallest debt regardless of interest rate, unless you're paying like something with a 30% interest rate. So I'm reading it, and he talks about like all the psychological effects, like, it'll make you more motivated to pay more. Like, no way. Let me try it. Start doing it, just boom, 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 like knocking it out. And then it helps drive the discipline, and it makes you more motivated. And then it's going away. I'm almost done.
Yeah. Well, and in the end too, I think like as you build up those milestones, right? So if you have like 5 payments of like $150 each, and all of a sudden on your last payment, the minimum payment's $200, but you're paying like $700 or $800 a month. You feel like you're a super rich guy because you're way overpaying those payments. And admittedly, yes, you're still, $30,000 in student loan debt or whatever, but the fact that they're only asking for $150 and you're just way overpaying makes you feel so much better versus doing the math like, okay, after I pay all of these 5 payments, I'm going to have like $100 left over. Yeah. So it's amazing what willpower and just having a simple plan laid out like that can do for you.
Yeah. And then paying more too, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm still, aggressively overpaying them and knocking them out. And I'm like, sometimes I want to cry. I'm like, dang, man, but it also brings joy knowing that, hey, because I'm doing this now in, a year, that $850 is going straight into, in my pocket.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Every time. And it's going to keep multiplying. And then, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And to think though, like if you didn't do that, imagine how much longer it would take to have an extra $850 laying around.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I can't imagine. I mean, it's kind of sickening. Like you see oh yeah, well, when I log in to pay them off, it's like, okay, we expect these to be paid off in 25 years.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine paying down the debt for 25 years. Now, granted, if there's some people where their income, it'll take them longer, but if you can get it done in 5 years, 7 years, then do it.
Do it. Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Right. So.
Yeah. And that's what I strive. And it's one of those things, like if it was, people just go for the minimum monthly payment and they'll do it forever. But all of a sudden it's like, how would you like to have, again, an extra $800 laying around every month? Like what could that do for you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but I also like going out to eat and going to all these parties and all this vacation stuff. Like that's great. But guess what? When you have $850 a month laying around, you can go on as many vacations as you want within reason. It's like, it's either that or you're charging everything. And I mean, we could go forever on that. And if you listen to the Ramsey podcast, you can hear every story, every excuse that people come up with, but you also get to hear the success stories, right? Yeah. Now they're looking to buy a house with cash, or they're investing, and their wealth is growing, and they're 30 years old with a paid for house. Some success stories. Like that's who I'm going after. So that's kind of meant, like all those people on there almost can become mentors to the fact that it's like these people that are like 3 or 4 years older than me are married, have a paid off house, or like completely debt free, making great incomes. Like that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Versus the people that just talk about like, I went on this many vacations this year, and that's great. That's one of my biggest goals is travel, but I want to be able to do it without having to worry about where am I going to come up with the money, and what is this going to cost me down the road?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like I've already made my promise to myself. Once this is done, no more debt ever.
Yeah. And how many credit card offers come in through your mailbox? Like, why would I even spend 2 seconds looking at this? And you hear all that. I've never heard so many car commercials either, where it sounds like such a great deal, but it's 0%, but it's, they drop like a rock. I lost 50% of value on my car in like 2 years because I was driving it all the time. And I still owed almost as much as what the original car loan was for.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is not the way that I want to be managing.
Right.
So we're in this about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I like to wrap this up about the 30-minute mark. So a few more questions for you. What do you think one of your main keys to success has been, whether it be through college or life after college? What is your biggest key to success?
Having the goals, living a goal-oriented lifestyle. So that was one thing that I went to the Citadel. I started writing goals down, but by the semester, by the year, and then, you start crossing them off and you're like, wow, this is great. And then it just makes you that much more motivated. So, I've got a big whiteboard in my room with all my goals for the year. I've got my goal book here, everything from 2011 until now. And, anyone that I mentor or talk to, that's the first thing we do is, hey, let's write down goals and get that foundation built. Because I think it really does help drive your daily decision making, and it's changed my life, and I'll live the rest of my life with some sort of goal or objective always at the forefront. So I'd say that's been the best thing that I've done. And then just giving back, it feels great to help other people out, and I'm sure I know you feel the same way. So those are my 2 tidbits.
Big things. So I gotta go the different direction here. So you are goal oriented. Have you failed at those goals before, and what do you do if you do come across those failures?
Oh yeah. As much as I would love to have 100% check marks every year, it doesn't happen. And you can see here which goals every year that I've made, which ones I have not. And for those that I've failed at, it's like, okay, well, I'll write down well, why didn't this happen? For instance, this is the small one, but I've written down for years now, read 12 books a year, which should be very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Read a book a month, just do it, and have not accomplished it yet. So now, I've added more kind of accountability partners just for that specifically, because it is going to happen this year. So talk to me at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. But then even made a bet with someone from work. I was like, okay, who can read more books by the end of this summer? So adding, being a very competitive person,
Mm-hmm.
anytime there's competition added to it, it seems to help shift the behavior and drive results. So, I analyze the goals every month, and we'll see what we're on track for, what we're not. And again, we document it, and if we need to keep it on the list, we do. If not, then maybe it was too ambitious or it just doesn't fit, then we take it off and keep moving.
I love that, man. Yeah, that's great. I'm big on goal setting. I've gone to different conferences. I've listened to or read so many books, and it is amazing how, just like you said, writing it down, learning from those goals. Beginning of the year, everybody's like, I just want to lose weight. And like, that's about as specific as they get, right?
Yeah.
And then they go to the gym for a couple weeks and then it's all gone. And it's just amazing how when you actually, you have it written down, so you're carrying that everywhere with you. You're waking up every day thinking about those goals. And I have a list of affirmations that I read in the morning, right? Making sure that I'm committed to being the best family man that I can, health, and building this business. And it's amazing when you start and wake up with that mindset versus thinking about it at the end of the day, like, oh shoot, I wanted to go out to the gym today. It's 10 o'clock and like, that's not happening. So waking up every day and just knowing what your goals are for the day, definitely that's awesome.
Exactly. And it just, when you write it down, you have to write it down. Because a lot of folks, don't get me wrong, I think that the majority of people in this world, they've got some sort of higher ambition or something that they want. But then, you ask them, okay, well, what's your plan? And they're like, hold on a minute. And then, but versus where you've got the goals written down, you wrote them down with your own two hands, typed them with your own two hands.
Yeah.
Like, wait, it's like in the back of your mind, and then you keep it in front of you every day. There's no question as to what do you want to accomplish, or where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because you've got it there in front of you every day. And you study some of the best leaders in the world, ask them that same question that, you asked me, like, hey, what are the keys to success? I'm like, have a plan. It's not hard.
Yeah. I love that.
Got to start.
So I guess my last question for you will be, what are your goals for the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. Well, they're broken down into personal, professional, financial, and fitness. So I'll give you a few.
Yeah.
With the next 3 to 5 years, professionally speaking, again, it's you'll see me in operations management at Boeing, leading teams that are responsible for building the aircraft. Right now, I kind of indirectly support them or improving their processes, but will be in charge of the build process in a management role, and then senior management role by 30 or sooner. So pretty ambitious. I'm 26 right now, so but that's a big one. First home purchased by 28, and then let's see, what's another good one? A fun one. I got a fun one.
Yeah,
I used to do a really bad job about taking time for myself, and I've realized how important self-care is now. But I've got actually, it's kind of a continuous goal, but every decade visit at least 10 countries. So just booked a trip to London a couple months ago.
Yeah, we have direct flights out of Charleston now, so
yeah,
that's
I'm
great.
hopping on one of those. Yeah, hop on a 787. So, but yeah, I haven't just focused. The goals are not just strictly business. It's a lot of personal, and again, personal, professional, and fitness, and those are the things that are important to me. Another one that I'm really excited about, you'll see later this year, is kind of doing what you're doing right now, but making this mentoring and goal setting practice like into an actual thing.
Yeah.
And so I've got that in work right now. But yeah, those are just a few on the list of a lot.
Yeah, that's good though. Like you have it all laid out. Like I said, you have it all listed out. You can pick one for a month at a time or a couple for every month, and so you kind of put that in priority. And I know I said that was my last question. Actually, I'm going to end with this final last question.
Sure.
What is one piece of advice you would give to graduating, let's do college seniors, about their future? What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
One piece of advice. Have a plan. Again, or have your goals written down. So I'll continue harping on that. But I'm going to go back to what I touched on earlier, because you asked what I have learned over the 4 years or since graduating. And what I tell a lot of seniors now is practice self-care, because you get into your career and you start grinding every day, which is great. But it's just as important to, while you might be focused on your career ambitions, it's just as important to take care of yourself, take a day off here and there. Go take yourself out to dinner. Those little tiny things. I used to feel terrible about taking a day off, and some of my friends in St. Louis will tell you, like, you couldn't get me out of the office at 5 o'clock on a Friday because I just felt bad, like, oh, I need to be here. And looking back, like, you know what? If you've got the goals and the plan in place, then people are going to respect you taking your time off. And it's easier. It's very important to get that skill nailed down now, because if not, people will just see you as, okay, yeah, now we expect John to be here for 100 hours a week. That's the norm. And then you get more and more responsibility added onto your plate. It's going to be way harder for you to sneak out and go do the things you want to do to support yourself, your wife, your family, your kids, community. So really, I've talked about goals enough, but the self-care, extremely important. And that's one thing that I wish I would have known 4 years ago that I know now.
I went through the same thing. I was at a company for 2 years and I gave it my all, right? Like, you're out of college, you're proving yourself. I'm going to be the best worker that they've ever seen. And I would work long hours. I'd come home, jump on the computer after dinner. And like, my wife and me and her had a very straightforward relationship during that time, because I would check my emails on my phone and I thought it was, not guilty that I'm on the computer for another hour or two. And it really added just a bunch of stress. And now I have a completely different mindset on things. So there is a big balance and kind of a gray area you got to figure out between being a great employee and giving it all to your job, but also having time for yourself.
Absolutely.
You can't take care of yourself. You can't take care of others, and you can't, provide a job at home or whatever. So great piece of advice. I definitely second that statement. But thank you, Ryan, again for this. I hope a lot of you guys at home got a lot of value from this. I know I did. And it's great talking to people like this. And these are the type of people you want in your life. You want people that you can talk to and that are going to have different goals. You can have completely different goals, but as long as you both are striving for something, it can really push you forward. So like Ryan said, big focus, having your goals laid out can really make a big difference, either if you're going into college, as you graduate college, get into the career field. But go back and listen to a lot of the things that Ryan talked about, and you'll see why he's in the position he is in now. And I can't wait to see where he's going to be in the next couple of years. But thank you guys for listening, and look out for the next episode coming to you guys soon. Thanks.